Alright guys, first of all, I would like to tell you all that I warned you all about this. I told you that the ongoing burst of speed would be one of the worst and least interesting ones ever introduced into Asphalt Legends Unite, and today I will be having a look into it while I also let you know about a curious situation that led me to completely max out the Lamborghini Authentica days before the Grand Prix actually begins. So with nothing else to add, let's have a look at all the new stuff this Unite Season 2 brought to the game. Okay, so let's begin with the burst of speed. I will be honest, I was already aware that these cars you can see on the packs right now will be these burst of speed main cars, and if you want to know my thoughts about these ones, I will be mad honest. Most of them are purely for collection. On the first pack we have the Salene S7 Twin Turbo, which despite of being floaty and quite fun to drive, has a really bad acceleration, which makes it really challenging to win with on multiplayer. We also have the Noble M600 Speedster, which is a quite well-rounded A-class car, but not as good as the Valhalla or the Imola, which are far more common. And then we also have the McLaren F1 LM, which despite it's one of my favorite cars of the entire game, it's not worth the around to 70,000 tokens that it will take to be maxed out from this pack. So in general, this first pack is not something I would invest on if I had none of these cars. If we have a look at the second pack, the main car is the Tushek TS900 Racer Pro, which is quite nice on multiplayer, yet its top speed is not the very best, so I just consider it as a car to mess around from time to time, but not as a serious option to push on multiplayer. We also have the Frangivento Asfane here, which I can tell you it's not that good, since the drifting capabilities of this car are quite bad, so yeah, it can be used in multiplayer, but it's not even close to be the first car I would pick on multiplayer, all being said here. At last but not least, we have the Apollo Evo, which is a car I'm in love with, but once again, it's not worth the 70,000 tokens you will need to max it out from this pack. In general, I would say that it's the cost what kills both of these burst of speed packs. If they were at, let's say, 75 tokens, I could even recommend you all guys to go for the first pack, since the McLaren F1 LM is quite worthy, and at least you could get the Noble, which even though it's not like the Valhalla, actually helps you to push on multiplayer, but as I said, it's not the case, so I will definitely not spend on these packs, and I will recommend you all guys to do the same, because as someone who has all these cars, I can tell you with one hand on my heart, that 60 or 70,000 of your tokens are not worth these cars. On a funny note though, if we have a look at other packs we have around here, we can see that they mistakenly released the Lamborghini Authentica packs as if they were the 4GT Frankie edition ones, thus making the Authentica incredibly cheap to max, since it literally cost me less than 15,000 tokens to max it out from zero, but once again, I don't think the Authentica is worth the tokens it cost. If we have a look at its performance on the overclock showcase, while it's true that for such a cheap price I couldn't resist the temptation to max it out, hence why I decided to go for it, since I'm pretty sure that it won't be that cheap once the final packs appear with the Grand Prix. Anyways, back with the burst of speed, if you decide to max all the cars from both packs, it will cost you around 150,000 tokens more or less in total, and if you have them maxed out already, you will be able to get 2,600 tokens from the S-Class stage of the Burst of Speed time limited event, as well as 1,600 tokens from the A-Class stage and 1,200 tokens from the B-Class stage, making a grand total of 5,400 tokens, which is nice if you have all the cars maxed out, but it's a terrible cashback if you spend that many tokens to get the cars. However, as a side gift, if you have all the Burst of Speed cars completely maxed out, you will be able to almost complete the Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport special event, so you will have enough blueprints to unlock the Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport as well. If you want to fully complete the event though, you will have to max your Chiron Pure Sport, making the total cost of this season well over 200,000 tokens. Obviously, I don't think anyone should spend that much for such a bunch of mid packs, so I doubt many people will invest on this season. At this point, given the stuff Gameloft could launch in the future, I will definitely keep saving tokens because there is nothing really nice to waste your tokens at this moment. At this point, I'm even thinking if Gameloft will ever release a nice car people can invest their tokens on, because sure, the Aurora Tour was an elite S-Class car, but I don't know, aside from that we didn't got anything groundbreaking like the Hennessy Venom F5 for example really. On the bright side, many people got the chance to unlock all the key cars involved on these Bursts of Speed completely for free because Gameloft forgot to put requirements on the time limited event where you could get the key of those cars, so during the half an hour it took Gameloft to fix this issue, hundreds of players got the chance to unlock the McLaren F1 LM, the Fragivento Asfane and the Salem S7 Twin Turbo completely for free, and if you were one of the lucky ones, maybe and just maybe I would recommend you to spend a few tokens in order to start up the cars you got for free, because at the end you already got the cars, so you don't have to forcefully spend tokens in order to get the key. However, for everyone else who arrived later, it's a big rip and I wouldn't recommend you to spend tokens, as I say. If you are one of the guys who usually open the game every time the server gets refreshed, sometimes you will be greatly rewarded as it happened this time. Not gonna lie, I'm a bit disappointed because even though expecting the Koenigsegg CC850 or the Bugatti Bolide through a burst of speed could have been maybe way too much, the truth is that the final pool of cars Gameloft picked is, as I said months ago, quite mid, quite bad. Hopefully in the future they will make sure to release the kind of bursts of speed the community saves tokens for, events that, even if they don't include the Bolide or the CC850, at least provide with a bit more useful cars. Regarding the Bugatti Chiron Port Sport special event, the decal is quite nice, but the car is no more than a filler, which I don't think is necessarily bad, since in order to appreciate good cars, we need less good cars like this one, which is basically another Bugatti 1080. I will max it out because it's not even as expensive as the Absolute was, and as many of you guys may know, it could be required in future events where great cars finally make their appearance. Oh, and I literally hate to spend on multipacks since they are so bad and expensive that since I had to max out my Torino from one of those multipacks months ago, I decided to not to do it ever again. That's why I decided it's better to go for most of the new cars at their first special event, because after them, it will certainly be far more expensive to max them out through other means, like, multipacks and that stuff. But anyways, that's all what I wanted to say about this whole situation regarding what is basically the worst burst of speed I can remember at this point, both because of the prices and also because of the cars they picked. But now it's your turn, guys. What do you think about this burst of speed? Are you planning to go for any of these cars and spend some tokens, or did you choose to just keep saving for whatever the future brings? As always, let me know in the comment section, make sure to drop your like, and I will see you really soon as usual with much more Asphalt content. Goodbye, guys.